Welcome back. I am so excited that you have joined me again in the Aligned Womb, Aligned You podcast. I'm Kate Nagai, and I am your host and womb guide on this journey. I'm here to help you to lean into the language of your menstrual cycle so that you can align yourself and awaken and activate to your womb wisdom to live the most inspired life. I am so excited to jump into this episode and to dive into today's topic. So let's get started. Today, I want to dive into the conversation around diagnoses, and especially diagnoses that have to do with the womb space. There's probably been some time between menarche and now where you have been told some kind of information from a medical professional about the symptoms that you're experiencing. Maybe you've gotten official diagnoses around PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, polyps, ovarian cysts, infertility. The list can really go on. But today I want us to talk about and explore this idea that our diagnoses don't define who we are and where our future is going. For me, my big pivotal moment was probably when I had my second ectopic pregnancy. The first ectopic pregnancy wasn't really an alarm system for me. I was reassured that, this happened. Your other fallopian tube looks great. Chances of this happening again are pretty slim, and that you should have no problems conceiving. And that wasn't my reality. And when the second ectopic pregnancy happened, there was this raising of the red flag, this, when my body became very much medicalized, and when all the information I was receiving about my vitality and my wellness and my opportunities for conception, everything began to shift in this moment. And for me, in that next year, from that second ectopic pregnancy until my third ectopic pregnancy, it really was like this defining moment where my diagnosis became part of my identity. And the transformation that happened during that time, and particularly in the months afterwards of my third ectopic pregnancy, were really these eye-opening moments that made me realize how incredible our body is, and how, yes, these diagnoses and these observations or these results from whatever diagnostic tool was used to achieve the diagnosis really is information, but it's delivered in such a way that creates such deep fear inside of us that makes us begin to identify with that diagnosis. But there is so much opportunity for growth and for change and for healing. And I have witnessed this in myself. I have witnessed this in so many women that I've worked with, and so many people who have become close friends, dear friends of mine. It's really interesting that it wasn't until the second ectopic pregnancy that my whole nervous system and my body went into this alarm state of, you're broken, something is wrong, how are we going to fix this? But when I really look back at it, that wasn't when my body first started to talk to me. My body started talking to me probably during my menarche years, my early teens, but it was whispers. It was just whispers of things to create awareness around. And it wasn't until probably when I was 29, 30-ish, I think I was 29, but it might have been 30, that I had my first pap come back with abnormal cells on the screening, and that I had to go to the Cross Cancer Clinic to get the news of what this meant, for them to explore deeper, and then for them to perform the LEAP procedure to remove those abnormal cells for a biopsy. Now, to this day, I have no idea if those were cancerous cells. I have no idea what that means. I know at that phase in my life, when I was still thinking about having a family, but I wasn't like in the depths of it, I remember asking them, will this impact my fertility? Will this impact my chances of being able to have a child? And they said no. Just very similar to my first ectopic pregnancy. It won't impact you. And I just was like, okay, I trust the professionals. And not to say that people shouldn't trust the professionals, but I allowed myself to be so struck with fear that I didn't explore, I didn't investigate, I didn't look at what this might mean. I just was like, fix this immediately. And really felt disempowered and fearful that I gave all my power to an outside source. And I think a lot of this comes with youth as well, of like this innocence, this maiden years of our life. But then it was shortly after that I did have my ectopic pregnancies. And the second ectopic pregnancy was this alarm system of, once again, kind of a remembrance back from those days of the LEAP procedure where I was told, don't worry, it's not going to impact anything. And then all of a sudden I'm being told the same words again, but going, how do I know? Because now I was in a moment of desperation. Now I really did want a family. Now I was actively trying. Now I already had 2 losses. Now this was becoming real for me. And then through this experience of my ectopic pregnancies, I went on to having my 3rd ectopic pregnancy, which people know my story. They know that I've went through 3. And that 3rd one was way less scary. What happened between the 2nd and the 3rd that really transformed for me was finding these right people that helped me reframe the body, reframe how I was seeing what was happening in my womb space, in my fallopian tubes, in my cervix, and seeing this as an opportunity of exploration and growth and curiosity. Because our womb is something that holds so much wisdom. It is really this place in our body that, has given birth to us by our mother, is what we will birth other beings into the world through. But it's also where we birth the identity of ourselves, especially as we transition into menarche. And then as we get into our menstruating years, and then furthermore into our mothering years, and then into perimenopause, and then into menopause. This place is really this holder of wisdom and of opportunity for us to come back into alignment with who we deeply want to be. And so between my 2nd and my 3rd ectopic pregnancy, there was this moment of going, how am I going to heal my body? Because at this point now, I was also told that I would probably not have children naturally, that I would have to rely on IVF or not even IUI. It was only IVF as my option, that they were going to remove my fallopian tubes and we would just go into IVF, and that would be how I would build my family of 1. And that didn't feel good for me. That felt very scary, to feel like choice and opportunity was being taken away. And if you have listened to the previous episodes, the one that I did with Colleen, our nervous system, it reacts and it regulates by knowing we have choice. And in those moments, I felt like I had no choice. So now my nervous system is overstimulated. I'm feeling very confused about the future of my family, very confused about the future of my health and what this meant on a bigger impact. But I found these most amazing people, these practitioners from all different areas of alternative healing, that each person brought a little bit of a wisdom code to me of being able to deepen in and trust my body. And this deepening, this trusting that I learned to do with my body, it has been the biggest lesson, the most empowering thing that's come out of my fertility journey. Because in those moments of darkness, when I had people giving me that little bit of a flashlight to explore my messaging, what I was carrying in my body, both emotionally and physically and energetically, and starting to look at how I could create healing and optimization and vitality, even beyond fertility, it was like this little flashlight that was trying to show me different areas that needed attention, needed awareness. And through that awareness, I was able to learn so much about my own psychological barriers that I had created, Some I really do think I innately inherited during my conception of being in the womb space in my mother, and a lot of the fear and a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the trouble she was facing during her pregnancy. I feel like all of that was coming to the surface of like how I was identifying as myself in the world and through beyond reproduction. This goes like to how I was like a super achiever in school, how I still have this tendency for perfectionism and I can be really hard on myself, and how, I have a fear of disapproving and have a fear of going against the grain and being judged or ostracized. These are all deep feelings that come from what I'm now seeing as a pattern that was also creating rigidity in my fallopian tubes and was also creating this imbalanced state in my cervix. And so the work that I did between that second and third ectopic pregnancy was like really big change-making stuff. Now, yes, I went on to have a third ectopic pregnancy. Not the outcome we were looking for by no means. And it's funny that even when that diagnosis was given, even when I was told that it was an ectopic pregnancy, it didn't feel the same as the other two. The other two were heartbreaking devastation. And this one, don't get me wrong, it wasn't the news we wanted, but there was this deep inner knowing within me that, first of all, it was a hard one for me to take down of like, no, this can't be. I went back for a second opinion the next day because I really was like in my gut, I don't believe this is an ectopic pregnancy. Like I really felt like my body felt differently. And then when they determined it was, we went the conservative route and just did what we needed to terminate that pregnancy so that I could feel confident in continuing to do the work that I was doing so that I could do the healing that I was needing to do. And it was like just a few short months after that third ectopic pregnancy, I got successfully pregnant with my daughter, and then, continued to have more pregnancies and more children. And now I have 3 beautiful children in this world that was never, seemed like a far-reaching dream at the time when I got the diagnosis that I was probably never going to have children on my own. The work that I did, the exploration, what I learned about the body and how I really redefined wellness in the body and how we can create vitality and healing, not only helped me in, conceiving my 3 children, but it has led me on a deeper journey throughout my life now to really look at my wellness and when things become out of balance, how I can bring them back in and really listen to the language of my body and how it's speaking to me. So I healed my fallopian tubes. I went on to have my daughter, got pregnant with my second daughter, and my second daughter was born premature. And because I had an incompetent cervix, which meant that my cervix was thinning too soon, which is why it led to her being born premature. And I remember after she was born, because I knew the power of the mind, I knew the power of, having someone to reflect my experience on, and having the support of alternative therapies and natural practitioners, holistic practitioners, however you want to call them, how important that was for my healing, that after my daughter was born, I went and seen a naturopathic doctor for the very first time. And I remember going to see Dr. McKinnon, and I just literally laid it out on the table. I'm going, I've had a LEEP procedure because I had abnormal cells on my cervix. I have had 3 ectopic pregnancies. I had an incompetent cervix, and now my daughter was born premature. What this is telling me is that there is something off in my womb space, in my cervix, in my uterus. There's something out of balance. And if I don't tend to this, it's going to turn into cervical cancer. And that's my biggest fear. I want to make sure I'm doing everything that I can to heal whatever needs to be healed. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's an emotional wound still from, my childhood and from my mom being pregnant with me. I don't know if I'm carrying that, but whatever it is, we need to figure this out, and I need to heal my womb space. And it was this awareness within me of going, wait a minute, there's something off. I want to get even deeper in my curiosity. I want to heal this. That, we did a lot of different approaches, a lot of different ways of healing. If she suggested it, I was like, sure, let's try it. And I had miraculous things happen in my body. One of the big ones is that all the eczema, I've had eczema since I was a baby, like since I was a newborn, all over my body. I struggled with it my whole life, being on cortisone creams and even them not working. I healed my eczema. Within 5 months of working together, my eczema was gone. And it has now been 10 years, close to 10 years, maybe not 10 years, because my daughter's not 10 yet, 8 years, and it's never returned. I've never had another patch of eczema on my body. I was also someone who really struggled with constipation as a child, as a baby, and even into my adult years. And I have no problems with elimination now. And elimination even as in my menstruation. Like my period problems, all of them dissolved away too. Like my body knows how to release. It knows how to soften and to let go and to trust the process. And these have been huge catalysts for my health, because if we can eliminate, if we can allow our body to detox and like get rid of stuff, that is huge for our health. And my eczema, that was my body's way of purging once again. It was trying to get rid of something, and it was doing it through the tissue of the skin. And so that was like such a huge lesson for me, especially with my eczema, of rather than trying to put creams on and trying to solve it from the top in, it was like, no, we have to go in and solve it in, out. My daughter, my middle child, she was premature at 31 weeks. We were told that, we'd be in the hospital till probably, she would have been around 40 weeks. So we'd be there for at least 10 weeks, and that she wouldn't be able to breastfeed for a few more weeks because they don't have the coordination to suck, breathe, and swallow at the same time until 34 weeks. My daughter was literally 3 days old, and she started taking in breast milk. And it wasn't because she was some kind of magical unicorn. It was because me as a mother was like, no, you know what? I think I have tools. And I instinctually listened to my body and what it needed. When she was being fed on her NG tube, I would put her on the breast so that she could coordinate her that she could correlate that her belly was filling and that she could smell my breast. My husband, myself, my midwife, and any family member or friend that wanted to come see us in the hospital had to do skin to skin. That was our rule, is that our daughter had to be skin to skin 24/7. And we were released at 33 weeks. We were released within 2 weeks of her being born. And I remember the NICU doctor saying, this has never happened to me in my career. I have never released a baby this early. This is very unusual, but we have no logical reason to keep her here. She's eating on her own. She's passed all the tests. She's never been on oxygen. She's never had an episode on the machines. She's thriving. She doesn't need to be here. She doesn't realize how little she is. And she was let out into the world. My oldest child and my youngest child both had issues with eczema. They both had outbreaks around 1.5 years. And the protocol that we did for me to help heal my eczema, we did it for both of my children. Their eczema has never returned. And all of these stories just keep layering how when we get into relationship with our body, when we get curious, when we start to explore what our body's trying to tell us, all of these symptoms that it's like purging out or that it's trying to shout at us through, whether it be fibroids or whether it be ectopic pregnancies or whether it be eczema or whether it be constipation, this is just our body's way of trying to alert us that there's a disruption in the system and that it wants us to look inwards. Some of that inwards look is going to be very medicalized. Some of it's going to be through supplements. Some of it's going to be through energy healing like acupressure or acupuncture or Reiki. Some of it's going to be through somatics and bringing in nervous system regulation, maybe through breath work or yoga. there's so many different modalities out there. There's so many ways to tap in to create that healing response in the body. But the first step is for us to be aware and to know that it is possible, which is what I think is so foreign to us, especially in modernized world and especially as women. We hold, in my personal opinion, we hold a lot of ancestral trauma that translates into shame and disconnect in our body. There is this felt sense that our body isn't safe, that our body isn't here to serve us, that it isn't here to protect us or to live our best life or to be vital, right? Like we hold a lot of trauma. And when we find these practices or these practitioners, we give the body the opportunity to release that trauma. We give the body the opportunity to release current trauma and to come into a place where we really can create a felt sense of hope, a felt sense of knowing the right next best step. And I have seen this over the 10 plus years I've been working in women's health with women, especially around fertility, but also around menstrual disruptions. I have seen miracles happen that blow my mind, like polyps the size of softballs disappear within 2 weeks, from endometriosis being in painful periods to finally having her first period with no pain, to seeing fibroids reabsorb back into the body, to seeing people with breast cancer heal. And the truth is that our body is always wanting wellness over illness. It's always choosing vitality. But sometimes we interrupt that process of it being able to achieve that. And there is some really simple tools that we can do to make big, humongous changes in our health and wellness. So, the point of the conversation today is if you are somebody who's feeling bogged down by a diagnosis, if you're feeling like this diagnosis is part of your identity now and that you are constantly on edge, waiting for the next episode or the next symptom to rise up or for a flare-up to happen, when you are constantly living day to day in fear of this diagnosis, I want you to listen to this. I want you to hear this, that miracles happen every day, that the body is actually designed and built for wellness. It is always trying to achieve homeostasis. Like, it blows my mind how our body operates and how all of these independent systems in our body, our respiratory system, our cardiovascular system, our immune system, our gut system, our endocrine system, all these systems are constantly communicating with one another because they're always trying to support one another like a little mini community so that it can always give resources where resources are needed, take where resources are not needed, and to create wellness. Like, it's always trying to bring the body back into this state of vitality and health. So sometimes we're just in the way. And so sometimes we have to create the opportunity or the experience for the body to be able to feel that it has the ability to check in and see where these resources are and to create that homeostasis again. So how do we do this? How do we all of a sudden go from a place of feeling very defined by our diagnoses to now trusting that our body can create wellness and vitality? My first thing is keep an open mind to all options out there. Realistically, when my body started to scream so loud at me because I was not listening to the subtle messages, and when it started to have repeated ectopic pregnancies because I just was not tuning into its frequency, was that I got curious. And when I say I got curious, I looked for inspiration and suggestions anywhere. I was so desperate to make a change in my body that I was willing to do anything, even if it seemed crazy and out there. Before my second ectopic pregnancy, I had never done acupuncture. I had never seen a naturopathic doctor. I went for massage for headaches, but never for, digestion or for fertility. I never heard of visceral manipulation. I had never touched a crystal in my life. And then now all of a sudden I was this person carrying a rose quartz crystal in my pocket. I was doing Reiki and energy healing. I was tapping into my yoga practice for healing, particularly around the womb. I was doing meditations and visualization practices. I was seeing an acupuncturist. I was doing my abdominal massage and visceral manipulation. I was doing all the things I possibly could because I really wanted to see how I could do this, how I could bring my body back into wellness. So open mind to all the options that are out there. Second one is know that the gift that your doctor is giving you by this diagnosis is really a gift. I know it may not feel like that when you hear it, but when we are so lucky to live in a world where we have these tools and these professionals that can tell us this information, that can do the blood work, that can do the ultrasounds, that can do the x-rays, that can go exploring and find out the information and to hand us it saying, this is what we found. But the next step for you is to hear that diagnosis as just information. It is just data. This is just like what we have now learned. This is not a life sentence. That data, now that we have it, now this is where we get playful and curious and start to explore, how can I bring the body back into balance? How can I look at how emotions are affecting me, how lifestyle is affecting me, how my nutrition's affecting me? There's all these little things that we can do to really start to optimize the system. So our diagnosis is just data. The third is to get into a relationship with your body and to start to get curious about what are some inherited or maybe some real life in the current moment stories that I might be carrying in my body that are affecting me on a subtle level, that are stories that are now becoming part of our DNA. This is really, really important because we discredit how much emotions and feelings really do impact our health and well-being. And there is a whole realm of science that's now exploring this about how our emotions and our feelings can actually shift and change our DNA. It can go in and start to turn off and turn on certain gene codes in our human DNA system. And so we can heal and we can create opportunity for disease to present through our stories, through our feelings, through our emotions. Now, we all have this. We all have baggage. It's not avoidable. Like, we cannot go through life and not have these kinds of experiences. But what we can is we can find the right resources and tools to help us move through them so that our nervous system comes back into a place of feeling safe. So what I want you to really walk away from this conversation today, especially if you're somebody who is struggling with a diagnosis, and especially if you're somebody who's on the fertility journey right now, is to know that healing is possible and that it will look different for every human being. But the fun of it is that you get to now explore what actually feels good for you. What are the tools or the resources or the practitioners or people that are going to help you really establish that wellness in your body? And once you go on this journey and you start to explore, there is this empowering moment where it's like, I can now embody wellness. I can now feel what alignment feels like in my body. And now I just get to layer on that for years to come to create vitality and wellness so that I can live my best life for as long as I'm on this planet. And so if you are struggling right now with a diagnosis, please listen to this. I healed my body. I have witnessed my children healing their bodies. I have witnessed so many friends and colleagues and so many clients heal their body. A few months ago, we had Angela Duchesne on here talking about her breast cancer experience and really getting that curiosity of like, what part of me wants to die And how can I start to choose differently? And she healed from breast cancer. We can all do this. So let this be your little weekly nugget of hope this week. If you're somebody who's battling some of these conditions or battling infertility, and just know that the journey's not over. The journey is just beginning, and the information you have is data, and that hope and trust and curiosity will get you back into a place of vitality and health and wellness. So I'm leaving you with that today. I hope you feel inspired to get curious. And honestly, if you're listening to this and you're like, where do I get started? What's the first step to take? Feel free to send me an email. There's the Aligned Womb email address in the show notes below. Send an email and we can get you starting to get curious about maybe what's your right first step, how you can start to explore this and what this journey might look like on your healing journey. So have a great day and just know your body is amazing and it is here to give you the best life possible. Are you on the fertility journey right now? And are you struggling with trying to maintain hope and trust that your body can conceive a baby? I am here to invite you into my 13-week signature fertility course called Fertile, Restore and Awaken Your Fertile Body. This program is designed to give you all the tools you need to feel confident and to regain trust on your fertility journey, while still establishing and optimizing your most fertile body yet. So come join me. The doors are open, but they are closing this Sunday on March 24th. So now is the time to join. And if you join before tomorrow, Thursday, we do have early bird pricing where you save $148. So click on the link in the show notes below so that you can register and start this journey with me over the next 13 weeks.